Hey friends, my name is Z and you're watching CIE MakesItEasy, and welcome to a new video for IGCSE Business Studies. And today we have 3.2, which is market research. And by the end of the lesson you should be able to describe 3.2.1, the role of market research and methods used, and 3.2.2, the presentation and use of market research results. So check out the pinned comment for all the timestamps. But we'll move on now to 3.2.1, the role of market research and the methods used. And here's market orientation businesses. What we will look into the role of market research first. Market research is a process of gathering, analyzing, and interpreting information about a market. And it is important that market research is carried out accurately, because if incorrect information is carried forward, a great deal of money could be wasted developing a product that not many people will buy. And the role of market research is to try to find out answers to these questions, including: would customer be willing to buy my product? What price would they pay? Where would they be most likely to buy my product? What feature would it have to have? What type of customer will buy my products, like the customer group, the target audience? What type of promotion will be effective with these types of customers? And how strong is the competition, and who are the main competing businesses? And by carrying out market research, a business can identify customer needs in a changing and competitive international environment. And this is essential if a business is to remain competitive in the future. And now we have product-oriented and market-oriented businesses, and I'll just skim through this. And some business produce the product first, then try to find the market for it. This is known as being product oriented, because they produce the product first. And this approach is not common today. And these businesses often produce basic necessities required for living, like agricultural tools or fresh fruits. And the producer and retailer are mainly concerned with the price and quality of the product. Like, let's say consumers may not buy these products, like iPad, like new product, until they have been fully tried and tested, until advertising has persuaded them to purchase the products. And the second one, businesses whose market are national or international cannot be product oriented, as it is risky to produce products and hope that they will sell without first carrying out market research. And this approach of carrying out market research before developing a product is called being market oriented, and it requires businesses to have a marketing budget. And each business has to identify the wants of the customers, both now and in the future, in order to produce the right goods which will sell well and make a good profit for the business. And marketing-oriented businesses are better able to survive in the market and be successful, as they are usually more adaptable to changes in customers' tastes. Then we have market research methods. And market research can find out two things: quantitative information, which includes answers to questions about the quantity of the product, like how many sports shoes were sold in the month of December. And number two, qualitative information, which includes it answers the questions when an opinion or judgment is necessary. For example, what do customers like about a particular product? So one's more like open-ended and one's more closed-ended question. Then we have primary research. Primary research or field research is a collection of original data. It involves direct contact with potential customers, like questionnaires, online surveys, interviews, and focus groups. Advantage of primary research including it is up-to-date and relevant. It's usually planned and carried out by the people who want to use the data. It is most effective when it's used to gather information which will help the business with a specific problem. And it is not available to other businesses unless they undertake their own research. But possible limitations include it can be expensive, like individually interviewing many people, and it is not available immediately, as it takes time to collect all the data. Then we have process of primary research. To undertake primary research, a business would normally go through a number of stages, as summarized on this diagram. And you can have a read for this diagram while I describe what it is. And the question in the process of the primary research include what does it want to find out about the market research, what information will be needed, what action will be taken, and this will affect the type of market research being undertaken. And number 2, will more than one method be necessary? Will just secondary research be sufficient, or will primary research will need to be used as well? And the cost of the research and the time required will need to be taken into account. Number 3, how big will the sample size need to be to keep the cost down but get a sufficiently accurate result? Different age groups or different income groups? And then we have the information that will be need to put together and the data analyzed, and we have to see what it shows. And the report will need to be produced to show the findings. Included in the report will be a summary of the research findings and conclusions drawn based on these results. Then we have methods of primary research. For the first one, we have questionnaires. And questionnaires are form the most basis of most primary research, and they may be conducted face to face, or by telephone, or by post, or on the internet. And deciding what questions to ask is difficult if you want to be sure of getting accurate results. And some questions may not be very clear, and some questions may be misleading. Closed questions often require a yes or no answer, let's say quantitative. But open questions allow respondents to explain answers in their own words. An advantage includes there's detailed qualitative information can be gathered. Customers' opinion about a product or service can be obtained. They can be carried out online. And to encourage people to fill in the questionnaires, vouchers can be offered as a prize draw. But disadvantage includes if the questions are not well thought out, the answers to them will not be very accurate. And carrying out questionnaires can take a lot of time and money. And collating and analyzing the results is also time consuming. Then we have online surveys for the primary research. And these can be carried out on specialized websites using any internet connected device like mobile phones. Advantage of online surveys include it's fast with quicker response time than other forms of surveys. It's cheaper than interviews or poster questionnaires. It is easy to complete for the participant. And the data collected can be quickly presented and analyzed using IT tools. But disadvantage includes the absence of interviewer to explain open-ended questions or to ask out following questions to gain more detailed information. Number 2, it cannot reach potential respondents who don't have access to the internet. And the scope of fraud, as some people will just answer an online survey to gain any incentives being offered and not give any honest answers, as they just want to receive the benefits themselves. Then we have interviews. When interviews are used, the interviewer, which is the person asking the questions, will have a ready prepared question for the interviewee, which is the person answering the questions. Advantage includes the interviewer is able to explain any questions that the interviewee doesn't understand, and detailed information can be gathered about what the interviewees like and dislike about the product. But disadvantage includes whether consciously or unconsciously, the interviewer can lead the interviewee into answering in a certain way, which means that it's a leading question. And interviews are very time consuming to carry, and therefore they are often an expensive way to gather information. Then we have focus groups, and this is where a group of people, like focus groups, agree to provide information through a group discussion with a researcher present. The group might discuss a specific product or their reaction to an advertising campaign, and this helps the business make future marketing decisions. And groups may also test new products and then discuss what they think of them, explaining what they like and what they dislike about them. But advantage includes they provide detailed information about consumers' tastes and preferences. The interaction between members of the group can help the business to understand the reasons for people's opinions, and it's quicker and cheaper than individual interviews. But disadvantages include they can be time consuming and expensive if conducted by a specialist market research agency. The discussion could be biased if some people on the panel are influenced by the opinion of other people. And it can be dominated by just a few people, so the researcher will need to be experienced to deal with this issue. Then we have the need for sampling. When deciding whom to ask to fill in a questionnaire or survey or whom to interview, a sample has to be selected, and there are two common methods of sampling. A random sample, which is every member of the population has the same chance of being selected, and people are selected at random. An advantage is that everyone has an even chance of being picked, but not everyone in the population may be a consumer of the particular product being investigated. And the quota sample, people are selected on the basis of certain characteristics like age, gender, or income, and researchers are given a quota, and if they are carrying out street interviews, the researcher can choose whom to interview, providing they ask a certain number of people with particular characteristics. Now let's say you ask 10 women, then you can go onto the street and ask 10 women and not 10 men. Then we have secondary research. And secondary research or desk research is the use of information that has already been collected and is available for use by others. So we have advantage and disadvantage of secondary research. So for advantage, it's often a much cheaper way of gathering information than primary research, as the data collection has already been done by other people. And it can be used to help assess the total size of a market by finding out the size of the population and its age structure. A newspaper may carry vital economic forecasts, and it's usually quicker to obtain secondary data than to undertake the primary research. But disadvantage includes the data may have been collected several years ago and may be out to date, and data is available to all businesses, not just collected for the sole use of one business, and data may not be completely relevant as it wasn't collected with the needs of one business in mind. Then we have internal source of secondary data, and a lot of information may be readily and cheaply available for all from the business owned records, and relevant quantitative information which will be available from the sales department, which will hold the detailed data on which brands of products have been selling well and in which area. And whereas the finance department could give detailed information on the cost of manufacturing products or providing services. And examples of the internal sources of information include the sales department record, pricing data, customers records, and sales reports. And number 2, opinions of distribution and public relation personnel, finance department, and number 4, customer service department. Then we have external source of secondary data, and this is when information is obtained from outside the business, and there are many and varied and tend to depend on the type of product that is being researched. And information from external source is inevitably of a general nature as it has been gathered for some purpose other than the research that is being undertaken. And this includes government statistics are a great detailed source of general information about such things as the population and the age structure. Newspaper may have good useful articles. If there's a trade associated for the industry, it often provides information about for the businesses in the industry. For example, there may be an agricultural association which helps farmers who grow particular crops. Market research agencies are specialist agencies that carry out research on behalf of companies or anyone who commissions them. They sometimes publish reports of their research into particular markets. And online sources provide an easily accessible source of wide range of information, including information on companies with their own websites, government statistics, opinions about a product or brand on social media, newspaper websites. And in fact, any paper-based sources of information can often be easily and quickly accessed through the internet as things are being digitalized. Then we have who carries out the market research, and businesses can carry out their own research into different aspects of a market for the existing product or the possible market for a new product. Secondary research is often easier and cheaper to carry out, as primary research may be too expensive for the business to undertake itself. And the business may decide that it can afford to pay a specialist market research agency, which will carry out whatever research it is asked to do. And it will find out what customers want and their spending habits, as well as what they think about an individual business products and its competitors' products. However, these agencies are expensive to use. Then we have factors influencing the accuracy of market research data, and I'll just skim through this. And the reliability or accuracy of the data has been collected depends largely on, number 1, how carefully the sample was drawn up, number 2, the way in which the questions in the questionnaires were phrased to ensure honest response, number 3, the sample selected, number 4, the size of the sample is also important, and the larger the sample, the more accurate results are likely to be, but the more expensive will be the research, which is basically called the sample size. And then we have the wording of the question, whether if it's like leading question or not. And this one we have who carries out the research, as secondary research may not be as accurate as first thought. And bias, as articles in newspapers sometimes have a bias. And the age of the information, as statistics can quickly become out of date. Then we have 3.2.2, presentations and use of market research results, and here's analyze market research data, and how to design and use a questionnaire. You can ask yourself the following questions: what do I want to find out? Who do I need to ask? And where will I carry out my questionnaires? And for writing the question, when deciding what questions to ask, it is advisable to ask no more than 12 questions. And you can keep the questions short and clear. And it is a good idea to keep the answers simple too, like a yes or no question. And if you want to know the age of the interviewee, give a choice of age groups like 21 to 40. Avoid open-ended questions unless people's opinions are sought. And be careful not to lead the interview into an answer that may not be true by asking too direct a question. And think about the order in which you ask the question. Then we have carrying out the questionnaire. Before going out and asking the questions, think about how you will ask the questions and how you're going to record the results. And you may need to create a grid by the respondent's reply on how many people you are going to ask, and at what time of the day you're going to carry out the questionnaire, and will this affect who will answer the question, like whether people will be working or not, and where you are going to carry out the questionnaires, and whether this will have an influence on whom you ask. And here's presentation of data from market research. When information has been gathered as part of the market research, it may be difficult to make sense of what this means or what it means, and the raw data will need to be processed or converted into a form easily understand. And information received can be displayed in different forms such as a table or a tally chart, usually to record the data in its original form. And number 2, a chart, which basically shows the total figures of each piece of data in terms of the total number. For example, if the company sells its products in several countries, a pie chart can show at a glance which countries have the biggest percentage of sales and which have the lowest. And a graph, which can be used to show the relationship between two sets of data. For example, how total cost and the years. Then lastly, we have some definitions for 3.2 market research. And market research is a process of gathering, analyzing, and interpreting information about a market. Product-oriented is when a product-oriented business is one whose main focus of activity is on the product itself. A market-oriented business is one which carries out market research to find out consumer wants before a product is being developed and produced. Marketing budget is a financial plan for the marketing of a product or product range for some specific period of time, and it specifies how much money is available to the market, the product or range, so that the marketing department knows how much it may spend. Primary research or field research is a collection and collation of original data via direct contact with potential or existing customers. And secondary research or desk research uses information that has already been collected and is available for use by other people or businesses. And questionnaires is a set of questions to be answered as a means of collecting data for market research. Online surveys require the target sample to answer a series of questions over the internet. Then we have interviews, And interviews involve asking individuals a series of questions, often face-to-face or over the phone. Focus groups is a group of people who are like a representative of the target market. A sample is a group of people who are selected to respond to a market research experience, like a questionnaire, which separates into random sample. And the random sample is when people are selected on at random as a source of information for market research. And quota sample is when people are selected on the basis of certain characteristics, such as age, gender, or income, as a source of information for market research. And that's it for this 3.2 video on 3.2 market research. And I hope you guys found it useful and found it helpful. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe and comment down below if you have any questions or criticisms to ask me or to critique on me. And also check out my Instagram in the description for more daily content. And email me if you have any questions, and my email is in the YouTube bio. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this and found it useful, and I'll see you guys in the next video, which is 3.3. But until then, stay safe and happy learning.